In real life. Good evening, everyone,
Okay.
and welcome to EIT Health Summit 2021. We hope you enjoyed the previous sessions. And continuing for the event for the day, we are joined by Dr. Sigalit Ariely-Portnoy from Israel, the CEO and co-founder of GSAP. So, what is this company? GSAP is an international consulting firm for healthcare companies. They provide end-to-end services throughout the life cycle of medical products. Um, Based in Israel, it was founded by Dr. Portnoy in 2009, and it has numerous accomplishments under its belt. The latest one being its role in expediting COVID-19 vaccine development, regulatory submission, and clinical testing of Israeli Institute of Biological Research new vaccine. Today, Dr. Potnai is here with us and will share some of her insights about the startup world in the healthcare sector, and in particular about the different regulatory challenges that exist and that need to be overcome to bring a product from concept to reality. Thank you, Dr. Siglet, for joining us over here. We are very happy to have you here, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Krishna. Hello, everyone. My name is Sigalit, and I'm, as Krishna said, the CEO of GSAP. And I try to lead you today through the thinking that a company or someone in the institute who have an idea about development of a product, what he should think about, what's the first step, and how we should look at it regarding regulation. Because I believe that you have to look at it from the first day you think about your idea. So just a minute, okay. I'm going to speak about regulation of medical device and digital health. In general, my company was established 12 years ago. We have 70 people working in GSAP, and we support companies in Israel, in Europe, and US mainly. And we'll be glad to work with more people from Europe in order to submit a product to US or to Europe. And to lead clinical trial in Israel, I will move through the pharmaceutical and the medical device services we provide. And we'll start with the regulatory affairs of medical device according to the EU MDR. A few years ago, we had an old regulation, and now we have the medical device regulation and new regulation. And this is stating what is considered as a medical device. And it can be something that's we do diagnostics, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, treatment, or elevation of disease, and there are more. But most important is the fact that it stay what it shouldn't be. And you know that most of companies or ideas want to be a medical device, because we all know that it's a shorter pathway for receiving an approval. But they say that anything that's worked by pharmacological, immunologic, or metabolic means cannot be considered as a medical device. And this is a very important issue that we have to consider when we look at it. When we want to, according to the MDR, medical devices are divided into classes from class 1, class 2A, 2B, and 3, which class 3 is the highest one, and it should be carried in accordance with the classification rules set in Annex 8. And you can look there and try to classify yourself, or you can approach a company like us that will help you to classify your product. And around Europe, you still can find, because before that there were before the MDR, there were many notified bodies, but now there are less notified bodies. That's they want you to list all the rules applicable to your device. In the past, you could list only the most stringent rule for your device. In this case, you have to think about all of them. And if we talk about classification according to Annex 8, we are talking about following aspects that you have to consider, but these are not the only ones. The duration of use, for example, if you have an implantable and you want to check its biocompatibility with the body, so you have to consider if it's 1 hour every day for 30 days, or if you have some kind of transient, less than 60 minutes. It can be a short term, not more than 30 days, and long term, more than 30 days. For example, you have also to understand how you, I don't know why, but it stopped presenting, so I will put the presentation again. Okay, I hope you see. I will go to the right page. Sorry. Okay, so if we speak about the application, it's very important if it's non-invasive or invasive or surgically invasive, if it's implantable, if it's interact with the central circulation system or central nervous system. And it's very important the nature of operation. If it's a non-active implantable, it's different than in active implantable. So at the beginning, you have to try to characterize your product according to this classification. And if you know that at the beginning, you can think if you can simplify your product in order not to have so many restrict questions. Example, we call it V&V, validation and verification tests. In this case, um, someone asked here if I will send the presentation. Yes, I will send it to you later. For example, if I have some kind of a medical device that have electric circuit, I have to check EMC and safety of that electricity issue. If I have an implantable, I have to check biocompatibility. In some cases, I will have to check the functionality of that device or part of that device. If I have software, I will have to do software validation. And if I have a sterile product, I have to do sterilization validation. I have to verify that it's sterile. So it will probably will define what type of package will I have. If I have some materials taken from animals or from bacteria, I have to do viral inactivation in order to verify that I will not pose another risk to the patient. Of course, I have to do cleaning validation in order to verify if it's something that a doctor will use during during operation. I have to verify that it will be cleaned carefully. I have to verify that I have a good packaging and the shelf life of the product and the transportation will not cause any risk. Many medical devices have to check their usability, especially if they go to the patient and you have to use a very difficult equipment. So we have to do usability tests. In some cases, we will go to animal studies, and in class 3 products, we'll usually have to do some clinical studies in order to verify that our product is fits during trials to its use. And the earliest that I know what is required, it helped me to design my product better. And if a person before me was speaking about getting some grants and applications for grants, so part of it have to already to be in that, or at least in your risk assessment file, in order to verify that you follow it. What happens in the FDA? In FDA, they say an instrument, apparatus, implement, machine, etc. These are considered medical device, and most of it is we have to follow according to the FDA regulation, and they also have a similar system for classification. Class 1 is very simple issues like it can be some kind of a wrapping bandage or something like that, very simple one, and you need just registration with self-declaration. You don't have to submit any document to review, and you declare that you do that according to all the rules. On the other hand, class 2 or 3 may go through a different pathway. Depends if you have predicate. 510K, you probably heard it, is usually saying that you are substantially equivalent to someone with a similar technology, with a similar intended use, already have got an approval. And since you are going to base your submission on his submission, you don't need to submit any clinical data. And in some cases, you have a product, a predicate, but this predicate is in different technology, and you have to submit a de novo, and you have to submit documentation, and clinical evidence may required, and usually a pre-market inspection will be required. If you go to class 2 and 3, that are usually implantables and different and special things that have a higher risk, you have to submit detailed documentation, extensive clinical evidence, and you're probably going to see a site inspection, but this is probably very far from your place because this is just before approval. And we also have things that are not classified like HDE, which is a PMA that's in special cases don't require any clinical evidence. These are the cases, and they are very similar. In the FDA, you also have codes for material. So these are classified within 16 medical specialties. You can see here like chemistry, toxicology, hematology, immunology, cardiovascular, dental, etc. And you have to know what department are you approaching, because these are the people that will review your submission. So usually for an early stage company, I highly recommend doing a short, I call it one-pager regulatory strategy. That would say, what type of product do you have? Do you have to submit a 510K product, a PMA, de novo? Do you need a pre-submission in order to define with the FDA the major milestones of your development? Because the people from the FDA or from Europe, so many products, and they have a lot of idea about the risk of your product, and you may decide by pre-submission to consult with them. In the EU, we sometimes will talk with the notified body, and we ask to classify the product before even we start, or immediately when we start developing it. Of course, in the regulatory strategy, we state in a table all the basic standards or guidelines that you have to follow in order to submit it to the authorities, type of validation and verification plan that you should follow in the future. And will help you also. Some companies have a lot of idea about the product, and very complicated features of the product. And sometimes we would tell you, go first with a simple medical device and later add different features, complicated feature that will require a lot of much more V&V product. And the most important aspects of the regulatory strategy is to start a dialogue with the regulatory authority as soon as possible, with a notified body or with the FDA. And so actually in the regulatory strategy, what we do, we try to decide with you what's the intended use and the indication for use of the product. What is the classification of the product based on that? What's design and development documentation you should do during your development, because otherwise we will have to look for the data after that and it will be very complicated. What type of manufacturing information you have to start collecting. Designing the development is still when you go to the prototype, and manufacturing information is when you do technology transfer from the prototype to the production. What type of validation and verification you have to do with your final product, not with the intermediate version of your product. And if you need preclinical and clinical study, and then to collect all of this data, all of these ideas into a submission. This is what the regulatory strategy will detail, all of these to your product. And this is what we do usually with companies, with the initiations in the hospitals, initiations in the universities, etc. And I'm going to speak a little bit about digital health regulation. This is something that's still new and still in development with the authorities. And actually, FDA commissioners stated 4 years ago, we know that consumers and healthcare providers are increasingly embracing digital health technology to inform everyday decision. And I have to say that since the beginning of the pandemic, many digital health solution entered the market. And if you say that we must adapt and evolve our policy, this is also what's happened today in Europe, in US, and other countries. And what is digital health definition? Digital health is a discipline that uses information and communication technology to help address health problems and challenges faced by patients. It's actually saying nothing, but under it, a lot of new softwares and products are falling, and actually every product which has some kind of software is becoming part of digital health. So we can see here some example. Any electronic medical record, like clinical workflow, can be digital health. We have assistive device like Orcam device in Israel is helping blind people in reading. It's actually reading the pages for the patient. We have digital therapeutics, for example, in Israel, day 2, according to the microbiome test or blood test, they can offer you what you should eat in order to be healthy. We have something that's also very, very already operating in Israel in the insurance company, the title. The doctor can see through that your throat or your ear, or get data that's according to the need, and he can actually check you from far away, remotely. We have patient engagement like MediSafe. We have decision support. Zebra is helping doctor to analyze CTs of the brain or some other CTs, and they already got an FDA inspection. We have diagnosis, side diagnostics is doing a blood test within a few minutes instead of few hours, and this is growing and growing and growing, and this is part of the digital health. So in US, we have a division of digital health within the CDRH and the PRESERT program, specific guidance doc. In Europe, we have European Commission published a communication on digital transformation of health and care in the digital single market. Just a minute. And we have the IMDRF, I will mention it in a minute, who issued a framework document for software as a medical device. And in Israel, we have a government who decided this is going to be a national issue, and a lot of support is coming for that. And so there's a change in policy and new pathways, changes of definition of medical devices. We have medical device data systems, what we call big data. We have clinical and patient decision support, like analyzing CTs, X-rays, MRI in a better way than a doctor can do, at least what they claim and have to prove. We have PRESER, the digital health software pre-certification program that you can approach, and some other issues that you can look. For example, the software as medical device risk framework is classifying all the softwares for four different risks. And it's four categories of risk, and depend on the impact on the patient or public health. On one side, we have if it's treat or diagnose, critical, serious, and non-serious, drive clinical management and inform clinical management. And based on this, for example, if I have a software who just bring data to the knowledge of the doctor, it probably will be class 1 and 2. But if it's already will give him some recommendation that will drive his clinical decision, then we'll probably go between 1 to 2 and 3. But if it actually takes the decision, and based on that, immediate action is happening for the treatment, then it would go from 2 to 3 and 4, as you can see that. And if you are developing a digital health software, you should try and understand from the beginning what is going on with that and where you are in the point of risk. So if you have where you begin, you have to understand the user needs. And who is the user? The user is the doctor, the user, and the patient. You have to decide what's your intended use and indications. And if there's a predicate to that product, you should derive your regulatory product. But if you don't know, if you don't have a predicate, as I said before, you have to go to do some classification and then to decide what is your product. And in general, this is, in a nutshell, discussions about the regulation. And I see a few questions here I will try to answer. How to decide if a product should be sold as a wellness device or medical device? Okay, so wellness device cannot have any indication or intended use. Especially, you cannot claim that it will improve medical condition. And even if you go this way without approaching the authorities, they are looking at the site, and in some cases they saw them standing alone letter to the company that they ask you to remove your claim that you have a medical indication. So if you want to be a wellness device, you cannot have any medical claim, and this is clear. How could you go with the EU start up to EEUU to get the FDA? Is it a must to be established as a you don't need an approval in Europe in order to go to the FDA. In some cases, they will ask for ISO 13485, and this is you can do locally, but the FDA approval can come from abroad, and you don't have to be part of the get a registration in EU. Actually, I would tell you that from Israel, we used to register everything in Europe first and then go to the FDA. With the new regulation of the MDR, we have decided in most of the cases to go to the FDA. Even if it's strict and not so easy, at least it gives us, they have a real pathway that say you will submit, we will answer you within 90 days. And then we will submit the answer and you will answer in 60 days. So it's long, but you know when it ends. With the notified bodies in Europe, you don't know when it ends. With the difference between different countries, it's also very difficult. More at the pharmaceutical arena and less in the medical device, but it's also a bit difficult. So I think that's it. If you want to approach us, you can look at our website and you have a link there that you can pose some questions or ask for something. We will give the presentation here, and you have my phone number here. You can also use it, and we will be glad to speak with you as early as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Sigalit. That was a very wonderful talk there. A lot of new information, a lot of interesting facts about the regulatory systems to learn about. I hope our audience here finds this information useful. And to the audience, thank you everyone for joining us. Before you leave, there are two things I want to point out. That is, one, the lounge will be open. You can continue to meet fellow alumni from this community and the lounge over there. Go there, say hi, and get to know each other. And second, we would be really interested in getting to know your feedback from today's events. This will only help us in fixing some of the issues for tomorrow, and as well as in the longer run to ensure that we bring maximum value to events such as these. Thank you once again, Dr. Sigalit, for joining us. Thank you to the wonderful audience for listening to this talk and for participating in the EIT Health Summit Day 1. We'll see you tomorrow for more interesting sessions, a panel discussion, speed dating and networking, and wish you all a pleasant and lovely evening. Thank you. Bye bye.